Hello and welcome back to the Paddle and Fin podcast. I'm Brian,
I'm Jay.
and tonight, you guys, we are bringing you yet again another epic guest. We got none other than Jeremiah Burish. He is a stick when it comes to Mississippi River fishing. Just an overall great sportsman. He's also the director of sports and events through the Lacrosse convention
and
visitors.
Visitors Bureau.
Yeah,
CVB, yep.
That's a
You
long
got it.
title, dude.
It is, man. That's why we go with Explore Lacrosse. It's a lot easier.
Words are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be talking to you guys.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I met Jeremiah. It was this past winter at the Madison Fishing Show. We talked a bit, and it was kind of cool. And then we've kind of ran into each other a few times throughout the season at different events and things like that. But we'll start off with the age-old question. We always start off with how you got into fishing and kayak fishing, man.
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up. Well, my family didn't fish. I grew up with some friends that were huge anglers. They fished a lot. They fished a lot for northern pike and panfish. I would go over to their houses all the time, and I hated it. I hated going fishing because I never caught anything. I didn't have the patience. I think I was like 10 years old one time, and we were trolling for pike on this little lake that we could go to, and I hooked into a 3-foot northern, and like the next day we went back out there and I did it again, and I was just like, I was hooked. That's all I wanted to do then was fish. And so yeah, it just took that one time, to finally catch something and to be something of size, and I was just like, that was awesome. So then all I wanted to do was fish. And but I didn't really bass fish, I'll be honest. I didn't really bass fish until even my mom moved into town, and we lived on the river. This was in Lake Wissota, where one of the KBF events is at next year. But I have zero experience on Lake Wissota. But I would always fish that little river. They would come up the river and go to the dam. And my mom lived on that. And in high school and stuff, my friends and I would walk that all the time. Its deepest point was like 6 feet. And so we'd throw topwater all day for these smallmouth. I mean, it was
Nice.
like endless smallmouth on topwater. Nothing big ever, like a bunch of 16s and stuff at best. And I mean, it was just tons of fun, and we'd wade the water and do that. And so that was always a ton of fun, and caught a ton of smallmouth, and came down here to Lacrosse to go to school. In all honesty, I didn't really fish a lot. I was on the track and field team here at UW Lacrosse. I was a pole vaulter here, and didn't really do a lot of fishing till post-collegiately. So 2012, I graduated. Started doing it a little bit over the summer here and there, but still didn't do a lot. And if I did, it was usually for crappies or something to go get a meal and just enjoy it a little bit. And I did enough of it, but not a ton. But started getting into a little bit more bass fishing as I had a friend who had a skiff that just you go out and paddle around in a little skiff, like a little duck skiff.
Yeah.
And I'd take that every now and then. And then my now wife, girlfriend at the time, I took her one time, and I was just going around the backwaters of like Goose Island area and throwing a frog a lot, because that's what I did from shore, right? It was shallow stuff, and that's the only area that's a really good area to be able to cast a lot from shore. And so I was throwing a frog a lot, and I took her, and she caught a handful of fish. She caught the first one on a frog. I mean, it blew up right next to the skiff, and she screamed and caught it, and it like, because it was, I mean, like right next to it, and it just blew it up. It was awesome. But so that was kind of, I started doing a little bit more bass fishing, a little bit more. I ended up getting a little flat bottom boat to do a little bit more in 2016, but still didn't do a ton. And then Chad and I, my job with the Convention Visitors Bureau is to bring sports and events to Lacrosse, and brought in the Bassmasters and the Elite Series, FLW Pros, Major League Fishing now a couple of times. So working with kayak fishing, and so it's one of the largest growing industries in fishing. And so I worked with Chad to bring in an event, and we had an event for the first time in August 2017. And I actually took Chad out the day before to do a little bit of filming just around I was just like, hey man, I don't know if my spots are good, but do you want to go throw some frogs around? We'll go have some fun at least. I don't know if there's any good fish, and we did, and we had a bunch of fun, and I was like, the next day, it was the next day was the tournament, and I hadn't signed up or anything, and the numbers weren't huge, and I was like, Chad, can I fish this? Like, is there any like, I don't know, conflict of interest or anything there? He's like, no, man, go for it. Why not? I'm like, well, sounds like fun and all, but I also think we just hammered all my fish. Like, he's like, they'll be there, they'll fine, So I was like, all right, well, I did it, and he let me actually use one of his kayaks because I didn't have one. I was just going to use a skiff, which I couldn't have. It's not legal. Yeah. So I fished that tournament. That was my first tournament, August 2017 ever. I never fished any tournaments in that point, and I finished third. I was tied for second, but that constant, like between first and fourth virtually all day, and seeing that on the leaderboard, I was just like, I'm a super competitive person. So that was just like, I was hooked from then on, and that's all I wanted to do. And so I fished, the national championship. That qualified me for the national championships in 2018 down at Kentucky Lake, where I got absolutely embarrassed. As I think 200 others did. I beat 200 others, but with one 12 and a quarter inch fish. And then fished a bit more in 2018, a handful more events, a lot of the challenges, a few of the live events. And then this last year I jumped in and did quite a bit, went down to Nickajack, fished both FLW events with KBF and quite a few more of the central tournaments. And and then a few others, part of the Great Lakes series and some other events as well too.
Was there an open up in Lacrosse in 2018? Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was. Yep.
Did you fish that one? How'd you finish there?
I did. I finished in 13th, I believe.
Okay.
I believe it was 13th. I think there were about 70 some, if I remember correctly.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking about 2017, you took a third place finish, and then this year at the Trail Championship, you took a third place finish. So I was curious if you're like stuck on that third place finish mark, man.
No, 13th. So
okay.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure. So
okay,
something like that.
Right on, man. Right on. Well, that's one thing, man. Like I know this year you've been hitting it pretty hard. I know you won the Great Lakes kayak fishing event that was up there as well.
Mm-hmm. On pools 8, 9, and 10. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've been having a pretty stellar year, man. So,
I appreciate that.
Mean, we're winding down now, right? But
it's going to be more hard water now here. Hopefully, the stellarness continues, but it's not going to be out of a plastic boat anymore.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's too funny. Oh, you just got recently put on the Bonafide team as well, right, man?
Yeah, I did with the Team Bonafide and Team Yak Attack. Just recently, right before, I think it was like the week before that Great Lakes tournament, actually, or maybe 2 weeks before that. So I'm extremely ecstatic to be a part of them. In all honesty, that's what I fished anyway. I love the Bonafide, especially for my style of fishing. I told you I'm a shallow water angler.
Sure.
The Bonafide is perfect for that, and I will never diss another platform. I think everyone's has different needs for how they fish and their tactics and stuff. But I couldn't do a lot of stuff that I do in a lot of other vessels, in all honesty. Like, that Bonafide is one, it's super stable, it's light, I can easy run and gun with it, and and take it to inches of water quite often. Down at Nickajack, I literally, it was windy and I was in this cove, and when the waves were coming through, I would get stuck on the sand, and then it would, as the wind would pick up, it would push me back. So there's this huge sand flat, and on the other side of it, there was a little deep hole that I found that on accident, that I had an hour and a half left to fish, and I knew that area had fish in it, but I didn't know where anymore because I had been fishing another spot the first day, and I was literally going through inches of water and found a 4 to 6 foot hole that I caught an 18.5 inch, and then 4 other upgrades in the last half hour.
Nice.
And I would not have been able to do that. And like I said, in another kayak, and to be able to stand up, sit up nice and high. I love my Bonafide, man. Like I said, I think all the platforms have great kayaks now, but that is just, it fits me perfectly.
That's awesome. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Very cool. Well, going back to when you were talking about, filming with Hoover. So I ran into that video. What did I do?
Did you see what he just did?
No.
Take another swig. Just watch. He's got a freaking Hulk hand, like, kind of thing.
Dude, my hand is just swollen from catching all these fish.
Yeah. So here's the funny part. Ryan thought that was your regular hand.
I didn't even see it at first. So if you guys are listening on the podcast, you got to go check this out on the YouTube video. Oh, that's too funny.
Dude, it's like a Hulk smash hand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
It's enormous.
You do it. It's like, it's funny.
It's my favorite can koozie there is.
He just like nonchalantly, like, it's funny. You planned that, obviously. He just brings it up. What's up, guys? Take a drink. You're thinking that's his regular hand.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great. So getting back, you were talking about filming with Hoover. I actually ran into that video. It's on Hoover's YouTube page when I was doing some research for Lacrosse for the upcoming trail event. And I'm like watching the videos and I'm like pausing it. I'm like, all right, there's a big bluff back there. Never found your spots, so you're safe. But it's a cool video. You guys should just go check that out. If you want to see Jeremiah in action with the man himself.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them now. He's been up here quite a bit. We did a 3-year deal with Chad and with the tournaments and then with the filming. And so he's been up here quite a bit. And so we've gone out quite a few times now. And I mean, every time's different. It's like it's crazy how much high water we've had. So we've done a lot of high water fishing. But, every time we do something a little different, try to go hit some different spots and do different things. But, and do a little bit of – so there's quite a few videos. You see me actually pole vault over Chad if you haven't.
I haven't seen that. I need to see that.
I haven't seen that either.
You need to check that out. It's if you Google or on YouTube, if you search like pole vault KBF Lacrosse or something like that, it'll come up, or socks and sandals. It starts out that way. I was in socks and sandals, and he thinks that's a fashion faux pas, and which it is, but it started the first time because we went out, and the first time we went filming, or one of the earliest times he came up, we went down to Goose Island. It got really cold that night. It was like 50 degrees and it had been like 85, and we went to launch, and we had probably partied a little harder the night before, and so I didn't get up as early as I should, and it wasn't quite as ready as I should have, so we left, and I just grabbed my sandals. I got down to the launch, I'm like, my God, my feet are freezing. And so there was a pair of socks in my truck, so I threw them on, but all I had was sandals. And so he made fun of me then, and now every time he comes and we film, I throw on a different pair of socks and sandals. And now I put on like fancy dress socks and class it up and have a little more fun with it. But
I'm pretty sure you're okay because you're so far above that judgmental equator. Yeah. You're so far north that anything goes pretty much up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot to really push my buttons. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's, you mentioned the high water on the Mississippi, man. I mean, looking back at the Trail Championship, I mean, we were, 7 feet above normal pool or something like that?
Yeah, it started out at about 7 feet. And, I mean, at the beginning of the week, and it might have dropped about a foot throughout the week. So, but still, 6 to 7 feet high here for this Trail and Challenge Series Championships. I mean, it was... This whole year, it's unreal. I've never seen anything like it. Nobody has. Talking with Tom Mansour, who's an FLW pro here in town. I talked with him after the event. I just ran into him one day and was just talking to him, and he's like, in all the years that I've fished here, he's, I don't know, 65 years old or whatever, and he grew up here and he's been a pro here forever. And he's like, I've never seen anything like this. It started out high, it never got low. Our normal pool is like 5.5 feet on pool 8. We're out of Lacrosse, and I think we've had cumulatively over the month or over the entire thaw till now, like maybe a month and a half where we've been under 10 feet.
That's crazy.
It's nuts, and so it's consistently been 5.5+ feet high, and it's changed so much. River system's always changing, but with that high water, a lot of the stuff that I did know or whatever, a lot of those little sloughs and those little nooks and crannies that would hold fish are like, some of them are just completely gone. They're, like, washed out. And others, then there's new spots. Like if you watched the Major League Fishing, the Red Crest, when it was here, those guys, that was actually one of the only few weeks that we had normal water, and it was still a little high, but only like a 6 inches or so. But there was, how many guys got stuck because everything was different than the last time they had been here, and that high water throughout the early and that consistent, with it being that high that long, and it continues. It is literally like spots are completely filled in, and then when there were no little cut throughs, there's an entire new creek that runs through, or a little slough that runs through an island that literally used to be an entire island.
Yeah.
So it's been nuts. It's been nuts, man.
Yeah, I know when I was up there, I was floating through trees that were once islands,
Oh, yeah.
And it was nice because you could take some shortcuts, get into some areas, And we talked about the one spot I was going to fish a bridge right there under I-90, and normally you would have to go like way down, out and around and back up, and I just cut through some trees. It was sweet.
Yeah, made it probably about a third as long as it should have been.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But that was one thing, man. Like you and I were talking up there, and you were it seemed like you were kind of disappointed because the water was so high, and you were like, I don't know what it's going to be like, and obviously you being in the position you're in as director of sports and events of lacrosse, you want a good turnout, you want a good tournament, you want guys to be coming back there. But I think overall, man, I think we briefly talked afterwards. I think it was a good showing. I know I struggled.
Yeah.
I know I struggled. You didn't. Well, I'll take that back. After day one, I think we talked, and you were like, yeah, I think you were up there in the top 10 or right around there, and you're like, I don't know, man. I hope my fish are there tomorrow. And, lo and behold, you took second in the challenge series behind Josh Stewart, and you took third in the trail behind Josh Stewart and Russ Snyder's. But,
Right.
It was a hell of a day for you, or hell of a tournament.
That was honestly, that was probably the two best days on the water I've ever had here on the Mississippi. 3 personal bests in the tournament from the Mississippi River. I had 2 19.5s and a 20-inch, and I've caught a few 19s and a couple 19.25s in the past few years or whatever, but I've never caught anything bigger than that. And to do it in the tournament when it really mattered, the championships, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen them. I've had them hooked on before. I've seen some big ones. It just, sometimes they just come unbuttoned or whatever happens, and it just worked out finally. It was, everything just went like it was supposed to, instead of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. It was, hey man, that's what it's supposed to feel like, so.
Well, that's the thing. They always say, right? You always remember the ones that got away, not the ones you land. So
right. And to go off your point too, like again, back with my job and showing off this fishery, you nailed it. I joined you guys down in Ferryville for that dinner, and jumped on that podcast here again with this one. And I honestly, I didn't know what was going to happen though. I said I think 160 inches is possible to win it, and I mean, that didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
What Russ had 185.
Yeah, right.
Or some, yeah, I think it's 185. I mean, that's insane. That showed out so much. You know, it just goes to show, I mean, one, these guys are incredible anglers. Everyone on the kayak series, you know, it's not anything to scoff at. Just because we're in plastic boats doesn't take anything away from us. But two, it did show that, you know, if you got around those fish, they would still be grouped up. You know, you could still find grouped up fish and big ones, and you'd find good ones. But again, if you weren't around them, if you weren't catching a fish, you needed to move.
Yeah.
You know, and you needed to move, and you needed to cover water until you found them. They would bite if you got around them, but my God, I that first day of practice, I caught one fish, or two, maybe two fish, two bass, and you know, I just wasn't around them. I didn't find them that first day of practice, and luckily I found them the next day of practice. I went to a spot and I caught a 18 3/4 inch smallmouth, and then back-to-back 18s, one a smallmouth and one a largemouth. I'm like, oh my God, this is a really weird, unique, little tiny spot that I'm throwing at. I'm done here. I mean, it's Tuesday. I don't know if they're going to be here Friday,
Right.
but I'm not going to throw another cast in here. And just like that. So that's where I started in the tournament, and they were there on day one, but the wind was out of the south and it was a southern point, and I couldn't, my anchor wouldn't hold me because there was nothing on the bottom where I was I was in like 12 feet of water, and my anchor actually wouldn't hold me very good anyway. It was, you know, I'd slowly keep drifting up, and because that wind was just brutal, and I was casting that southern point, and I only actually 3 out of my fish on day one came from that spot. And I knew there were more fish there, but I just couldn't cast them decent. So I actually moved on day one at about 11:30 and moved up to pool 8 and went to a spot where same thing. I was like, man, if my school's there, I know I caught a 19-incher out of there in practice, and then I left. You know, same thing. And I know that there was a school there earlier because that's where that same area. It wasn't the exact same spot, but that same area is actually where I caught those. My day 2 fish in that Great Lakes tournament. They were all like 15 inches, and with the exception of one like 17 1/4 in that Great Lakes tournament. But that area was holding fish for some reason, and it's a weirdest spot. There's no current. I don't know why it holds fish. I have no idea. It was super weird. But anyway, I just got lucky and found some fish in there. And anyway, I went in there on day 1, and my fish weren't there. I didn't get a bite, or I did. It was one little tiny northern. I mean, like a 12-inch northern. And so I fished out around that whole area and went to the next little bay, and ended up catching 2 14 3/4 inch fish that actually were upgrades, believe it or not. And with like 10 minutes left, I was like, man, this isn't gonna do it. You know, I need to upgrade. And so as fast as I could, I went back to that spot where I started, where I thought those fish would be, and I caught that little northern, and on a jerk bait, on a swim jig, my first cast, like actually on that spot, like my third cast, as I was like, as fast as I could paddle, like going into it, you know, cranking that thing as fast as I could, and I finally got into it, and I caught it, or I hooked in, and I was like, I know it's like got to be like 3 o'clock, so as fast as I could reel it in, I saw it jump. I'm like, oh my God, it's a giant. I'm going to lose this fish. I'm throwing fluoro. You know, I'm horsing this giant in so that I can hopefully get a picture in time. He gets next to the boat. I grabbed it. I popped the hook out as fast as I could. My board was already in front of me. I threw it down, snapped the picture. And I mean, by like the skin of my teeth, I got that fish in. Oh. And so that was my last cast of the day. I've never ended on a last cast catch. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, that just doesn't happen, you know?
Right.
And so I was like, and to be a 19.5 inch, it ended up being a 19.5 inch fish for the day. I actually submitted it as 19 1/4 because I was like, excited. I saw the picture and I thought it was 19 1/4, and I just submitted it, and I was just like, I don't even know if it counts. I'm kind of freaking out. Like, I took a picture afterwards, like holding it up, you know, and to send to my buddy. But it wasn't even like joy on my face. It's personal best, and I was just like, because I didn't fish. I didn't know. And so Anyway, I sent it in, and it did. You know, it was just in the nick of time, and you know, and that was a 4 3/4 inch upgrade that kept me in it. You know,
That's
otherwise,
huge.
yeah,
That's
you know, I
huge.
got rid of one of those 14 3/4 at least, and then day 2 I went down to that other spot and back on pool 9, and the wind wasn't so bad, and I started on that point again. Again, it's just such a unique little spot. It just is a drop off. There's some rocks in that area. There's a little bit of current coming through. There wasn't a fish there. Didn't get a bite. I'm just like, well, maybe these fish are up feeding. So I went into shallow water where the current was coming over the trees, and like you were talking about.
Yep.
And I caught a 17-inch smallmouth, and I said I was going to give it until about 9 or 10 o'clock, and if I didn't have a decent number of fish by then or whatever, I was going to go back up to pool 8 and go back to that other spot. And anyway, I fished that whole area, and I end up finding a little spot where there was current coming through the trees off of like some down logs, and it just like made a little funnel, and I caught a little bass. I caught a little northern, and then I got bit off. I'm like, well, something's here, you know. I don't know what's going on here, but something's here that is holding fish. So then I got bit off on my swim jig, so I tied a new one on it and threw in that area, and I ended up catching 3 more. They were all like 15 inches or so, you know, nothing big, and one was like a 13. But I had 4 fish by then, and I felt better, you know. And it was at that point it was like 9:45 or so, and so I had 4 fish, and I was like, I'm gonna go back to that point. Went back to that point, and then literally for 2 hours straight I sat there and caught smallmouth and largemouth, and they came out of the woodworks, and they were all stacked on that point, including a 20-inch largemouth. And then I had to stop fishing because I didn't know what I had anymore, and I didn't want to waste time catching fish anymore that I couldn't measure. And so I stopped, and I was in no service, so I just created notes on what my fish were. And I was throwing, my smallest at the time I had 2 17 1/4s, 2 17s, and then that 20. And so I'm catching 16 3/4 inch fish that I'm like, oh man, this is a good one. This one's gonna help me out, and because they're so fat right now.
Yeah, right.
And oh my god, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my god, this one's no good. And I'm throwing back. Like the first 2 times, I was like, nah, I can't throw that back yet. I did a double take, you know, like, yeah, I don't need that fish, man. This is crazy. And so I did that, and I was gonna give myself an hour to go back to that one spot on pool 8 because I thought that there might be big fish in there still, and literally I didn't cast it at all really the night before, you know. And so I was making my way back out after about 2 hours, and then I paddled out and found reception, and I hit that spot one more time before I was going to leave. And as I was, you know, kind of leaving, I hit that little spot where I found those fish earlier in the morning, and that little tiny dab of current. I mean, I'm talking like I'm in like 3 feet of water. The kayak was probably in like 2 feet of water, and I was throwing into like 3 feet of water through the trees where this little bit of current was. And like my second cast in there, I felt a bite and started reeling it in, and like, I think this is a good fish. It might be a better fish. And then I tried to knock it off 3 times with the net, and it didn't want to come unbuttoned, thank God, because it was a 19 and a half. Nice. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to stay here. I stayed there the rest of the day. I didn't upgrade anymore, but man, it was a crazy day. It's definitely not what I was expecting. And just, you know, they were there, and a couple other guys came down there and fished the kind of that same area. But they weren't everywhere. They were just in such weird little unique spots that I don't know. It was weird.
That's crazy, man. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on the paychecks, man. I know
Thank you.
Everybody was congratulating you on winning some baby money. So,
yeah.
You know, Jeremiah's got a baby on the way, so congrats there too.
Thank you. Yeah,
Cool.
I'm sure it's going to be all going to diapers. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, you probably took home enough money to supply yourself for a year, maybe. You know, 8 months. So
right. Yeah. I'm so excited to spend my money on that.
And if you're doing formula, it's even more expensive.
Yeah.
course, we are. With that being said,
Yeah.
Grabs the big beer koozie hand again. I love it. I love it. Oh man. So Jay is a super big pike fisherman. So if we're gonna talk pike fishing on the Mississippi River, what are we looking at?
dude, it's unreal. You want to catch like 45 inchers? Come on up. It's silly.
I've still never been up there yet. I don't know why, but but it sounds appealing just a little bit.
And I can't tell you how many frogs I go through on giant pike. I mean, in the summer, it's the bass and the northerns are in the same areas. I mean, it doesn't matter what you throw. Whatever you like to throw, you're going to throw it and you're going to catch pike. It's just silly. And, like right now is the fall. Might be getting a little cold up here now, but you still could go out and catch them. But, man, it's great all 4 seasons, really. If you want to come up ice fishing, there's another video, or I don't know if it's actually published yet or not, but Chad and Christy came up over the winter to come ice fishing, and they just for a fun trip, and Christy doesn't want to go on ice. She's never been on ice.
Yeah.
And she got out there, and luckily some of my friends were already out there, and it was one flag after another. She never sat down. She was mad we didn't get to really drink our beer. We took a case of beer out there. She's like, I thought ice fishing was all about drinking beer. Because we were just making her go get the flags nonstop. Yeah. She's never done it, so she's catching like 3-foot northern after 3-foot northern, and oh man, she put on like 4 miles that day, and we were only down there for a couple hours, and it was so fun. The fishing is just incredible here on the Mississippi. I mean, there's 119 species. All of them are abundant. There's good quality, good quantity. And some, we don't get the giant bass like down south, but man, you want to come up here and catch 2-pounder after 2-pounder virtually any time throughout the year, you can do that.
Well, I'll say too, man, like I caught some really quality smallmouth. I caught some 19.5s, 18s, 16s, and unfortunately those were all during pre-fishing, but that's the way the cookie crumbles with me. But not only that, but I mean, if you look at some of the fish that Russ Snyder's, Josh Stewart, I mean, I think big bass the one day was like almost 22, right?
21 3/4 by Tyler Cole.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I mean, it's just crazy. I know I caught a couple pike up there. I caught some huge crappie the one day when I was on the move looking for some bass, and I went in a back cove and I caught like 2 crappie over 10 inches. Yeah. I mean, it's not only is it a great fishery, but it's very scenic as well. Yeah. I mean, some of the rock bluffs and things like that along the Mississippi River, bald eagles flying all over the place, things like that.
Oh, it's unreal how many bald eagles there are. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's just a beautiful place. I got to get Jay up there, man, because I think he'd love chasing pike up there for sure.
Yeah, well, I know a guy that. No.
I don't want to go.
Fair enough.
I like catching 25 and 30 inches down here.
We'll keep them all to ourselves up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, it truly is. Again, my job is to really to sell it, to sell the area. It's more for sports and events, like I said. But I talk to leisure travelers daily, and we really do. We live in a special place. Lacrosse is an incredible area. It's called the Driftless Area because the last ice age glaciers that came through actually missed us, and that's why we have these beautiful limestone bluffs overlooking the Mississippi River and all the rivers and tributaries that flow into it. And that's why it's got such an abundance of great fishing and hiking and biking and recreation and everything, man. It's just gorgeous. Reminds me a lot of the Ozarks, it just on a little bit of a smaller scale, kind of the Smoky Mountains, anything like that. It's really pretty. It is.
Heck yeah, man. And, I know on the podcast I've talked about fly fishing in Wisconsin for, small stream trout, and that's right in the area that Jeremiah is talking about.
We have more miles of freshwater spring-fed freshwater creeks than anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
And they're chock full of trout. I mean, like, it's silly.
Yeah.
There's so many trout.
Heck yeah. And you're talking brook, brown, and there's been some rainbows put in as well.
Exactly. Yep.
What's your favorite trout stream out there, since we're on the subject?
In all honesty, I don't trout fish a whole lot. The little bit I have gone, I always kind of go to the same spot because I know I can catch some fish there, and it's usually just about catching some fish for me, not going after the quality ones. So I've always gone to Timber Coulee, or Coon Creek. Both of them are in the same area. Timber Coulee actually flows into Coon Creek, and but I know there's some areas right around that whole area that, I mean, there's so many streams down that Coon Valley area and Chaseburg and stuff, and got some good friends who fish down there a lot, and they catch quality as well as quantity. I just haven't stuck that much time into it myself.
Hit the West Fork of the Kickapoo, my man.
That's absolutely what I've heard too, and I've heard some big ones in there. The Bad Axe.
Oh yeah, Bad Axe as well. Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. So, that's a good segue. You're the director of sports and events up there in the La Crosse area. So what's it look like trying to get, like you said at the beginning, like BASS, MLF, KBF, things like that, signed up to organize and come fish in the area there? Like, how does that whole process work?
Initially, 2012 was the first time we hosted a BASS event, an Elite Series event. I mean, we've hosted a lot of smaller events in the BFLs for FLW and some Opens, and some of their Bass Nation ones, some of the smaller events and things, more your everyday weekend warrior type of events. But 2012 was the first time we hosted an Elite Series, and to be honest, it wasn't. That was my predecessor. I started in February of 2013. And he actually had a 2-year deal, 2012 and 2013. But I loved bass fishing and bass in the Elite Series. Growing up, I did watch it a lot. And so in 2013, I was thrilled that I got to help run it, and with that, I got to, really meet all the backstage guys, the people who put it on, their salesperson, as well as all their on-site coordinators and stuff, and just establish that relationship with them. Honestly, for my job, the biggest thing is establishing the relationships, getting an event here in La Crosse once, and they really don't want to leave. They want to come back competitively. That showed with bass. It showed now with all these other events. You guys talked about it yourselves. One, the beauty of the area. There's excellent dining. There's nightlife. We have the hotels. We have the infrastructure. When it comes to fishing, this is one of the best fisheries in the country. So when bass came the first time for the Elite Series, it showed off. It was the best topwater fishing that they'd ever gotten on camera. It was frogfish after frogfish blowing up everywhere. Todd Faircloth won the tournament that year on frogs. So they weren't, they were already scheduled to come back in 13. They came back, another great year. That was the year Tommy Biffle won it. But still some phenomenal footage. They loved it. It showed us off really well. Again, the video shows off the scenery. But that relationship was established. We put on a great event. We had phenomenal crowd in 2012. 2013, we got dumped on with a ton of rain during the bass event. We still had great crowds, but definitely went down. So we took a few years off for them, hosted a lot of the BFL, some of those other things, because we don't want to lose its luster, and bring it back every year. And so we waited again until 2016, and we brought it back in 2016. In the meantime, we hosted Major League Fishing's one of their cup events at the time. It was the same thing. We kind of, we've been doing a lot of fishing tournaments. They actually reached out to me, believe it or not, on the Major League Fishing event, and just kind of said that they were interested in our area because they were doing one of their other events about 8 hours away, and they just wanted to segue and make it a day worth of travel. And so it was kind of us in the east side of the state that they were looking at. Either, I don't know if it was Winnebago or Sturgeon Bay or what exactly, but I know it was that side. And also great fisheries. But the guy, when he with Major League Fishing, who no longer works there, when he came over and he had visited there first, and then he came over here for a site visit, he's like, man, I can't believe how beautiful this place is. Like, this is not what I was expecting for Wisconsin, especially coming from the east side where it's really flat,
Right.
you know, and it's still pretty, don't get me
yeah.
wrong. It's just different. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And first in 2015, and then it aired in 2016, and then hosted FLW in 2017. Again, have that relationship with them through all their other tournaments and stuff. And they're great to work with. And then, you know, again, working with Bass, bringing Elite in 2018, that relationship with Michael, who was their salesperson, was easy. In all honesty, again, like I said, once that relationship was established, for me, it's like he would just call me. He's like, hey, he called my cell phone. Hey, what do you think about hosting an event next year? I'm like, and it kind of depended, you know. I was like, so from like 2016 on, it was kind of our goal to host one major event a year to keep us in the limelight a little bit, to continue to show off the fishery, but not overdo it.
Sure.
And not always do the same one, you know. So move it around, do FLW, do Bass, do Major League Fishing, do, you know, some of these other events. And in 2018, again, he just called me, and in all honesty, we didn't plan on doing an event in 2018. We were going to wait till 19. But same thing, they were within a day's worth of travel. They wanted to come back. So we were able to put together a proposal that worked for them, you know, because we have to provide a lot of things as hosts for the backstage side of things, you know, some rooms for their staff. There is a host fee to host all of these things. You know, the media value that we're getting out of it, the direct economic impact that we get from, you know, 100 anglers, 100 professional anglers coming in for a week with their families, and then the spectators over the weekend. I mean, that's a huge, that's approximately $1 million economic impact alone when you have, you know, 4,000, 5,000 people show up over 3-4 days to watch these guys, on top of all the hotel rooms that they're doing and the gas that they're putting in their boats and their trucks and all that. And so, you know, it's a value to us, and that's why there's a host fee, and then we provide that other stuff as well. And, you know, so there's a lot of things behind the stage. I think a lot of times with all events, people think they just kind of show up and they go and don't really realize all the stuff that goes in behind it. And neither did I, you know, until I got this job. I knew there was more to it than that, but didn't realize how much there is. And, you know, so it's all those backstage things, and the relationship that we've created with them is really the biggest thing. So I don't have to go through a whole, with these types of things, I don't have to go through a whole really formal proposal anymore. It's like, hey, these are the things we can do. I'll bullet an email over to you, and we'll negotiate things and go from there, versus really, you know, putting the whole thing together to show it off for the first time, because people don't know what lacrosse is. Now it's a lot easier. So
for sure. Well, let's touch on that too, because, like, you know, you're setting up, like, I know for the KBF event, you had an expo center that you set up for us to do the check-ins, the weigh-ins. I know Red Crest, they set up in a park there in town.
It was actually at the Onalaska Omni Center as well. They were just outside.
Oh, okay.
Where we were at.
Okay,
yep.
Okay, I gotcha.
They were in those baseball fields. Yep.
Okay. Well, you were on their live stream, weren't you? You kind of got interviewed on the Red Crest one.
I honestly don't remember.
I'm on TV all the time. I have no clue. You know.
I don't think I was on Red Crest, but I could have been. Honestly, I don't think so, but I don't remember. I do get interviewed a decent amount, in all honesty, but I don't think I was on Red Crest.
I could have swore you were on there talking about the area.
Maybe, I don't know.
We'll fight about it later.
He's like I'm kind of a big deal, man.
Do you know who
it's just
I am?
the way it goes. Yeah.
Your payment hasn't hit my account yet, and we're like 3/4 of the way through this interview. I mean, you better
Right?
Need more of that diaper money, bro.
That's right. Send it over, baby.
Well, I think that's one thing that makes, you know, you unique, and what you do is, like, you know, you're going through setting up all this stuff, and you know, that was one thing that I thought made you unique in your job and things like that is, all the different stuff you go through to bring commerce basically to your hometown,
Yeah.
which is totally
absolutely.
cool. I mean, I think that's a big thing, right? Is you touched on it a little bit, like each tournament like that, you said it's $1 million economic impact. I mean, that's
Yeah.
huge,
Absolutely.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, yeah. I've driven through Lacrosse on 9094 going into Minnesota, but I've never like really explored that Lacrosse area. I've been in the
That's a damn
area.
shame.
Well, and that's just it. Like, I realized that after spending a week in Lacrosse. I had spent time in the area down south there in the Prairie du Chien area. I got in an argument today with a guy from Madison. Is it Viroqua?
Yeah.
Or Viroqua?
Viroqua.
I said Viroqua, and he laughed at me.
I
So
would
he wins.
definitely laugh at you. I'm gonna anyway.
I'm not Wisconsin, bro. I just live close to the
That's
border.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Maybe when it was established by the Native Americans, Viroqua sounds a little better.
hey,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
you never know. You never know.
Look how he justified that for you. What a
I'm
nice
just trying
guy.
to help you out, man.
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
This is the same guy that wore socks with sandals. Remember that?
Oh, that's
Don't
true,
you
too.
forget it.
But that was the thing. I really got to explore town, and south of town and north of town. Onalaska is right on the other side of the interstate there. I did go up into Pool 7 a little bit, and I mean, you think driving through it on 9094, it's kind of a small town, but it's actually pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty well spread out and Onalaska is virtually the same thing as Lacrosse. I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't know where it stops and where it ends, in all honesty. And that's why my job, we aren't just the Lacrosse Convention Visitors Bureau.
Right.
We are countywide, and actually now we represent La Crescent, Minnesota, which is just across the bridge as well. And we don't stop there. I hate that we're called Lacrosse County, in all honesty.
Sure.
Because it doesn't stop at the county line. I mean, where you guys were staying in Ferryville, that's not in Lacrosse County. I mean, Goose Island is virtually the cutoff of Lacrosse County. That's Vernon County from Goose Island south. And so, the commerce that Stoddard and Ferryville and Genoa and beyond, and we represent all those areas and to the east as well, and then into Minnesota, La Crescent and Hoka and Houston and beyond. And in all honesty, 20 miles, it's Iowa on the other side of the river. And we don't stop there either. We represent those areas and north and beyond. And La Crosse County is kind of a small county. We're only called La Crosse County because that's where the room tax so we're actually self-funded through the tax of hotel lodging. When you spend $100 on a room, a portion of that is taxed. I think it's usually like everywhere it's different, but call it 8.5%. I think that's what it is here in La Crosse now. We get like 3% of that.
Okay.
To help to fund us. That's virtually our biggest funding mechanism, because we're a nonprofit. So that's virtually, we self-fund through bringing people into the area. Want to boost the economy, but then it helps us. It's how we can even function. And so yeah, I mean, like I said, though, it doesn't stop there. Again, it doesn't help us when you go and stay in Ferryville necessarily, because we don't see that room tax.
Well,
but
that's what I was gonna say is I wasn't one of the cool kids that got to stay with the sticks in Ferryville. I was just a visitor that night. I actually stayed in Sparta. So is that outside of your county there?
Yes, it is. That's Monroe County. Killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
I suck, bro. I suck. I'm sorry,
right.
man. I'm sorry.
Don't ever come back.
So I'm going alone.
No.
Jay, come on up, man.
Next time I know, I'll stay in downtown La Crosse.
No, man, it's all good. And like I said, we don't stop there. Just it does, obviously, like I said, it helps fund us and stuff like that, but it doesn't stop. It's it's that whole area, this whole area. You get a little bit. You might stay in Sparta, but you only got to see a little bit of Sparta. It makes you want to come back too.
Yeah.
You only got to taste a little bit of, and so it doesn't. You're not really actually making me mad. I mean, I never talk to you again, but I'm not mad. So.
I'm not mad, but just no way.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. We're out.
Dude, think about the implications of this. He's like the guy.
He is the guy.
We may not be able to even get in town.
Well, and that's the thing. Like,
it's down, man.
we ended up the trail championship, and I was like, hey man, if I come up here this summer, you take me out fishing? And he's like, yeah, I'll take you out frog fishing. I ain't gonna show you my spots though. It's kind of the same situation. He's not gonna let me stay in town now. I'll have to stay in Ferryville or Sparta. So. And then find a ramp that I can kind of hide my vehicle from, so he doesn't find it.
You can go up to the mouth of the Black River an hour and a half away and float all the way down. And if that's the only way I'm letting you in county lines,
that's something.
Hey, that's a start. That's a start. I mean, if that's going to rekindle this relationship, I'm down.
Yeah, man. You better. You better hope there's high water, because you're not getting down there in that 360 otherwise. I don't think you make it in almost anything otherwise. But
hey, I've floated it in a foot of water before, man. It'll work. It'll work.
I believe it. It's the black. It's when it gets shallow though. It's rocks everywhere.
Rocks. Yeah, just like a gravel bottom.
Yeah, and big boulders. There's not. I don't know if even when the tournament was here, if you could have actually fished the black, and technically you had to be able to paddle to and from.
Yeah.
Even in any vessel, I don't know if you would have been able to, like, that far up, because you could have technically fished all the way at the mouth of the dam of the Black River in Black River Falls. Like I said, it's like an hour and a half away from Lacrosse, and at the high water, maybe. Not high water, not a chance in hell.
Interesting.
In any vessel, I'm telling you. I mean, you'd have to get out and pull your kayak along or portage a little bit or whatever. You couldn't paddle all the way up to the dam, though.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to your job and your role, what other events besides fishing events do you bring to town?
So obviously we work on what our niches are. Again, fishing is great here because it's one of the best fisheries in the country. But some of the other big strengths we have, I mentioned it a little bit earlier before, with leisure travel, is our outdoor recreation. We have some phenomenal mountain bike trails. So we host a couple different mountain bike events, Wisconsin Off-Road Series, Wars, one of their series events throughout the year. A few other bicycle events along those lines, some mountain bike stuff. I'm looking at some USA Cycling stuff that do the same thing, to try to bring some of that stuff in that's a little bit more national versus just regional. But we also, again, being with the bluffs and the roads and everything, and this is actually farm area. Road cycling is actually really second to none here in the country, just because those the roads weave through all those coulees and the bluffs and they overlook the Mississippi River Valley and everything else. But aside from that, our roads are nice and wide. They have nice big shoulders, low traffic roads once you're off the main roads that go through. So our road cycling is phenomenal because of the farming industry. Back in the day, they had more information than you guys need, but I have it, so I got to spew it. So
yeah, do it, man.
Yeah, he's yawning and whatever. But the farming industry, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had to, the farmers had to get their milk to town, and so that's why we have all these awesome roads, and that's why the mountain or the road cycling is so phenomenal here as well. But so outdoor recreation stuff. We have one of the best track and field facilities at UW Lacrosse, and really in the country, for sure in the Midwest, but really in the country, it's one of the best. We host the state track and field championships, which is 22,000 people over 2 days. The largest, it's a huge event for us, biggest sporting event that we host annually by a landslide. One of the biggest events, period, that we host. We've hosted the national track and field championships for the NCAA Division III. a handful of times. Hosted the national wrestling championships for the NCAA Division III a handful of times. A few other big tournaments that were more grassroots that are still around here. Youth baseball, youth softball. I mean, you name it. We do a little bit of everything. But again, those are really our big ones because those are our niches. Those are what we have. You know, we don't have like a phenomenal fencing facility here or anything like that, or a club to even run it. So I don't go after the USA Fencing to host one of their events. But I do go after what we have. But it's funny, but I'm serious also.
Yeah. No, I hear you,
there
man.
really is. Like USA Fencing is a real deal, and they have national championships and all these events. But I mean, you name it, there's a championship for it. You make up a sport, there's an event, and there's a nationals, and there's something for everything, man. And conventions and groups and everything else. We literally host an event called the Handbell Ringers of America, and it's flipping handbells, man. It's like 500 people come up and show up at our lacrosse center, our convention center, and for like a week for a handbell ringer national convention. It's like, okay.
Have you ever brought lacrosse to lacrosse?
Yes and no. It's not big here, in all honesty. It's not huge here, even though that's how we were founded. The French settlers saw the Native Americans playing a game that they thought looked like lacrosse, and so they called us Prairie Day Lacrosse, since been shortened to just lacrosse. That you might have saw it driving through town. There's a couple of statues of the Native Americans playing the lacrosse, the statues. But there's a couple different clubs here and high school teams now that are club. And I've tried to host a couple of events, and they just didn't quite work out, in all honesty. And so it's tough because we don't have the greatest facilities for it. We have a major soccer complex that we can host it for, but they host some of their smaller things there, but that's really about it. We haven't been able to do a big event. I've tried. I know how silly it is. We're hosting like the national championships, but
I think people just don't realize how cool lacrosse is. It's way better than soccer. It's like hockey, football, and soccer all in one thing.
Oh, it's awesome.
I mean, well, a little bit of football, but
yeah,
definitely hockey and soccer, and you just
yeah.
Here's an interesting fact. So, this is totally off subject, but at the Onalaska Center, is that the name of it?
You were really close. Onalaska Omni Center, but yeah.
Onalaska Omni Center. There's an ice rink in there.
There's two, actually.
Okay, well,
we just were in the one that didn't have it up.
Sam Jones, who's a host on Paddle and Fin here, he was memorized by the ice rink because that was the first time he saw an ice rink. I was like,
really?
I was like, bro, you live in Indianapolis. They don't have any freaking ice rinks in Indianapolis. He's like, well, they do, but I've never seen one. I was like, dude, like, what did you do when you were a kid? He's like,
really?
you don't want to know. So he was like totally blown away by seeing that ice rink, which was pretty crazy. Sorry, that was a side subject. We were talking about sports, but
he's not north enough.
Yeah. Well, there's an episode. So this is airing Monday. The episode that plays Friday, Sam was talking some trash about me and Josh coming up to this Turkey Bowl tournament that's coming up this weekend. So I'm getting him back. There you go, Mr. Jones.
Nice. Yeah. Suck it, Sam.
Yeah,
dude. I would love to see some video of him on ice skates.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he
like
said he sucked at rollerblading or something, I think. He's like,
oh, yeah.
So.
That's a slam dunk. Get him in there.
Next time he's up here, man.
It's funny because when you're around here, it's like they're everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm surrounded by ice rinks.
Yeah.
There's two in that facility. We have three more. We host some big hockey events, too. That's the Omni Center virtually they have one hockey rink open all year, with the exception of like a few weeks throughout the year, and then everything else they have actually two rinks up most of the year for some pretty major tournaments that they host there. So another sports event that we do host here. So
that's awesome, man.
Talking lacrosse though, and unique sports that we've tried to host is Quidditch.
The hell is
like
that?
Harry Potter Quidditch.
I'm lost, bro.
you guys have never heard or seen any Harry Potter movies
Unless you got
anything.
flying brooms or something, dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
They have to hold. It's virtually lacrosse, but they have to hold a broomstick between their legs the whole time, and it's freaking ruthless, man. It's harder hitting than lacrosse is by a lot.
So are these like LARPers doing this, or is this like hardcore?
I think it started out maybe with a little LARPers, but LARPers, that's great, man. But I think it's kind of morphed into, I mean, these are like probably your D1 athletes that are getting cut off the lacrosse or the football team that are like, well, I'm going to go beat the hell out of some nerds that want to do
So they're like disgruntled. Not to like, talk trash, but it's kind of funny.
The best part is it's co-ed, and I'm telling you, there are guys lighting up girls. Like, it's like, I mean, and those girls, they just get right back up, and they expect it. It's insane. Watch some videos, man. Go on YouTube and check out
I'm going to be looking this up.
Dude, we should make a paddle and fin team and then go up there and show them what's up.
You gotta hold a paddle between your legs, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say we gotta have paddles between our legs instead of brooms.
They'll have to be bending branches, of course.
Obviously.
Dude, we you know what? Sam could be the coach.
Oh, that's too funny. Too funny, man.
What was that called again?
Quidditch.
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 Oh, that's.
I just wrote it down.
I think we should.
It to you.
This whole conversation needs to be Quidditched right now.
Yeah, let's Quidditch.
Man. Quidditch. Just quit it.
Oh man. Well, with that being said, if folks want to like go somewhere to check out some info on coming up to lacrosse to fish, something like that, where would you recommend they go check that stuff out? The beer.
I'm thirsty, man. I'm parched from all these puns. ExploreLacrosse.com. Go. Everything is on our website. Be sure to like us on our Facebook page, Explore Lacrosse. And our Instagram, you see some phenomenal scenery, a lot of great things to do, whatnot. If you're, again, this group of people who are listening, they should really check out our Fish Lacrosse page too. It's a new thing that we just started on Facebook. It's growing slowly but surely, really, about upcoming events, results, fishing reports, things like that. If you want a little in next time we're hosting an event, maybe there's a little extra info on there. You might see some results from some other events, maybe that were a little smaller, low key, that maybe had an interview or something like that from a winner that kind of gave away some hints and some secrets that might help out or something like that too. So be sure to check out our Fish Lacrosse page on Facebook. But then, like I said, everything else, man, explorelacrosse.com, you find it all there.
So, talking about future events, what can we expect to see coming out of lacrosse that we can talk about currently? Because I know you and I had a conversation. There's stuff that you can't talk about yet. So,
right.
The stuff that has come out, what can we expect to see up there next year, both kayak and boat fishing?
Yeah. So, so for kayak, I can't talk about, like you said, too much, with the exception of the Hobie Bass Open. So we're thrilled to be hosting one of their stops next year, the Hobie Bass Open Series. I believe it's in, I think it's June 11th, I believe, if I remember correctly.
I think that's right.
That sounds right. I do have it pulled up here too. June 11th, that's correct. June 11th and 12th, it's a 2-day event. Same thing, pools 7, 8, and 9. So yeah, thrilled to be hosting one of their series events. I think that's a great series. I've never actually fished one of their events. I hope to be able to fish one prior to the one in lacrosse, but for sure going to be fishing that. And then we with kayak bass fishing, we've hosted the last 3 years we've hosted multiple of their events. We're not kind of same thing, don't want to lose that luster. So we're not hosting one of their major events next year, taking a year off. Hopefully we'll have them back in 2020 and beyond, here and there. But we did, I helped with my connections with other convention visitors bureaus throughout the state. And this year, that's a boat series, is actually partnering with KBF, and in conjunction with their boat series, they're actually going to have a kayak series on either adjacent waters or, in the case of like the Mississippi River, either in separate pools or even the same pools. It'll be about a 100-boat tournament, and then it's a Wisconsin series that'll have kayaks with it as well, which is, I think, awesome and a really step in the right direction.
Who is doing this?
Well, I can't actually say who it is yet. It's a Wisconsin series.
Okay.
And it's which I think is really unique, and I expect the kayak anglers. There will be 6 stops. Lacrosse is going to be one of them. Their dates are out already, but again, I don't want to say the date necessarily. It'll be during the summer, but
6 stops in Wisconsin only.
In Wisconsin only, but again, it's boats and kayaks, not competing against each other. It's not boater versus kayak or anything like that. But the kayakers will be on, and they go to Sturgeon Bay, will be on Little Sturgeon or something like that. The kayakers.
Okay.
When they come to Lacrosse, they're actually, I think we're going to fish the same pools, in all honesty, because there's enough water here. And I with 100 boats and three pools, I highly doubt we're going to even see any issues or anything like that. But
that's a lot of water. 3 pools is a lot of water.
It is. So, so we're super excited. We're hosting one of their events next year. Again, and the cool thing with that is they're actually partnered with KBF, so that all those events, I don't know all the details, but there will be some national championship qualifiers from those events or from the series, or however that works out. Again, that's not up to me. That's up to them to figure out. But pretty excited. So we'll still have some KBF affiliation even through that series next year.
Okay.
Just ecstatic to have that and help grow kayak fishing up here in Wisconsin even more. 3 years ago, like I said, we had 13 anglers for that first KBF event, and now it's grown quite a bit. And I knew of like one other guy that fished around here in a kayak, and now it's booming. And I'm just glad that the kayak industry is growing up north, like the industry showed it was doing, and the trend showed, and just want to continue to grow it, because it's fun. And aside from that, back to the question. Sorry, I got a little off topic there, but there's another event that hopefully will be announced here in the near future. That'll be a kayak event here. That should be a pretty good size event. That should be great for us to show off the area, and great for some national anglers to come in and check out too. And then in terms of other fishing tournaments that you guys can look forward to and check out on the water and stuff like that, we have the big event that we're hosting next year is actually the Student Angler Federation World and National Championships at the end of June. And that is 400 boaters, or 400 boats. It's been in Florence, Alabama, the last 5 years. Over 400 boats. There's 2 kids per boat and a captain, so 1,200 people just in the anglers and stuff. That doesn't include moms and grandmas and everybody else who comes. And they'll be up here for, it's a 4-day tournament.
Holy
and
smokes.
All of them fish the first 3 days, and then the top, I think it's like 35 fish the last day, and then they and they can practice for whatever it is a week. I don't think they actually have a cutoff, and so and the stuff that the nice thing about fishing tournaments is the practice. You guys know this. Everybody who's listening knows this. You guys we we go fish for a week beforehand, and then the tournament itself. But that doesn't include if you're not too far away, or you plan a visit a month and a half beforehand to kind of get a lay of the water. And these guys are doing that too. And so we get a lot of pardon the pun, but ripple effect from the fishing tournaments that a lot of other events do, don't, because you book a basketball tournament here, basketball court's the same here as it is everywhere else.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't change. So a 400-meter track's a 400-meter track. It doesn't change.
Yeah.
The fishing changes a lot.
Oh yeah.
From body to body of water. And then on top of that, the river system changes so much, and so it's we definitely benefit a lot from that. But yeah, those are a few of the big ones. We're hosting the other big one that we're hosting is the FLW's. I think I don't know which region it is, but it's their one of their regional championships for the BFL.
Okay.
It's not actually their Great Lakes division, which we're hosting 3 of their BFL Great Lakes division events here. But then like a month later, actually about the same time as we hosted the trail this year, like late October, is their regional championship. I think it's the Ozarks or something like that, that regional championship. So
okay.
A few pretty good ones.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, when you can talk about the others, we'll have to have you back on so we can spill those beans. And no, that's very cool, man. Like I said, and I told you when I was up there in Lacrosse, man, I loved fishing up there. It was a beautiful area. And I definitely want to make my way back up there this summer. And I saw that Hobie event. That's in June, right? Not July?
June 11th.
Yeah.
And 12th. June 11th and 12th. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll see you there.
Yeah.
I'm
probably be
following
here.
you. I'm following you.
Hey, you may get lucky, you may not. I don't know. I've also tanked here, man. It doesn't. That curse of the home water is also a very real thing. The first 3 tournaments, with the exception of the first one where I got third because I only knew one spot.
Sure.
I just went there, but otherwise, the first other couple tournaments, man, I tanked. I got 40th out of 70 on the next one that was here or something, and only caught 4 fish for the whatever Midwest Kayak Fishing Series when they hosted their event here. I didn't do well at all because I was trying stuff that instead of going to what I know and doing my strengths, I was like, all these great anglers are coming in. I gotta adapt and go find bigger fish and do all this stuff, and that didn't work.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah. So I've learned to just stick with my strengths, and that's why this year, especially, I've even going to other bodies of water, going to Nickajack, going to Ouachita. Ouachita, I only caught. I didn't. The results didn't show it, but man, I had a stellar practice, and I had over 158, 159, maybe even pushing 160 inches in 2 days of practice down there, and 157 and change won it. And I wasn't fishing it hard. I found a couple spots that fishing my strengths, same thing. I mean, shallow water, and found some fish. But in all honesty, I finished 30th in that, and the confidence, just knowing that I had a good game plan, is what has really helped me out the end of the season. Knowing that I can compete with a lot of these sticks and stuff too. So
heck yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, once you get past that mental block, I know I struggled with that a little bit this year, among other things. But that's the tournament game, my man. So
it is.
That's very cool, man. Well, we're winding down here. Why don't you shout out the Visit Lacrosse or Explore Lacrosse website again? Shout out to any of your sponsors, stuff like that, where people can follow you on social media, all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, if you guys want to check out Lacrosse, explorelacrosse.com is our website, the Facebook and Instagram for just Explore Lacrosse, our Fish Lacrosse Facebook page. My social media on Instagram is probably the best way to follow most of my fishing. Is just my name, Jeremiah Burish, and I have an adorable dog too. You probably should check him out, Rocket Dog Adventures. He's got his own Instagram page. He's a stud, man. You should follow him instead of me. He's way better looking, I'll be honest. But I was actually gonna get him on here, but he's upstairs hanging out with Mom tonight. So
right on.
Anyway, sorry. Back to sponsors. again, we talked about it a little bit, but Team Bonafide, Team Yak Attack, new with them, but absolutely loving being a part of them, representing those great brands. Blackfish Gear, Explore Lacrosse, Ray Marine, Tacticam. It's a great camera for your vessel, and be looking forward to their new fisheye that comes out. That's actually super exciting. Perfect. I mean, I helped design that with a buddy here, and camera, and their fisheye is going to be top notch for everything you need for fishing, for filming on the water, and have all the bells and whistles that make self-filming really easy. So definitely something to check out. And then just this week, I'm super excited to announce I working with ALX rods, great
nice.
rods down in North Carolina, produced here in America, and just great rods I use anyway. And so I'm just happy to be able to work with them and use them and be part of them now too.
Very cool, dude.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on that as well, dude.
Thank you.
Very cool. Well, you guys, be sure to go follow Jeremiah. Check out the Explore Lacrosse website and things of that nature. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from Jeremiah again soon. And, go check out those dates for all the kayak tournaments coming to the area up there. I know that Hobie one's probably going to be a really nice big event. So, till next time, guys, tight lines, smooth paddling.